So, Yuki Aim asked, very informative. Would love to see a vid about the genesis of the Ellcrys. Consider your wish granted. This is the story of the Ellcrys. Before we begin, though, know that this is a deep, deep dive into content that stretches over a number of books. But don't worry, I will have a link to a PDF of a transcript you can download in the description. Without further ado, let's go. Here's what we all should know. The Ellcrys is a magical tree that acts as the warden, prison, and guards for an extra-dimensional prison that holds all of the demons from the Age of Fairy. It does eventually die, and when the tree's time is coming, a single seed is produced that is carried by a chosen to the Bloodfire. The Bloodfire is a magical wellspring that quickens it, basically like dousing it with Miracle Grow so that it can be reborn, preserving the prison and keeping the demons at bay. And of course, an elf is required to sacrifice themselves and become the heart, soul, and mind of the new tree. Let's take each of these things that we quote-unquote should know and kind of unpack them a bit. First, the Ellcrys is a prison. That part about the demons being from the time of fairy is actually important. In the pre-Shannara novels, we meet demons that are walking in our world causing all kinds of mayhem. They are a different breed from the demons that fought the elves millennia ago. The Ellcrys has no effect on them, obviously, since they are walking around wreaking havoc while she is alive and well. Like all living things, magic or not, the Ellcrys has a lifespan. It varies in the books greatly. The first recorded episode of the tree needing to be reborn happens at the very least after it's been alive for 5,000 to 10,000 years, if not from the foundations of the Forbidding and the Age of Fairy. We don't know how many times the Ellcrys was reborn before this moment, if it was at all, basically. The tree is reborn again in a later book, but it's 15 to 2,000 years old at the most. No reason has been given for the drastic difference in lifespan at this time. What we do know is that the tree can sense her death coming and choose a successor. How she does this and why she chooses who she does is the real subject of this video. The Ellcrys is always a she and always from the same family line. In our case, they carry the name Ellcrys. You might assume that this is because they're the ruling family of the Elven nation, or it's some honor that's been bestowed upon them, or that they're the ones who crafted the magic originally used, and such are the only ones compatible with the process. These are all good guesses, and all wrong. The tying of the rebirth of the tree to the daughters of House Ellcrys is a chance for redemption, or a punishment, however you choose to look at it, that they've carried forward from the time of fairy. And it all started with Wayward Love. I'm probably going to butcher this name because elven names in the time of fairy were nuts. I'm just going to go with Alia Omorasian. Let's go do that. Alia Omorasian was an elven princess during the Age of Fairy. She lived in Amberle with her parents during a time when the elves and demons had been locked in their war for centuries. One day she meets a darkling boy, Karis, and they fall in love. Darklings are creatures of the void and the sworn enemies of her people, and vice versa. They talk about their families, their lives, and the magic that defines each race. Alia mentions the Elfstones, magical items of immense power that her father has been keeping hidden. Eventually, Karis, who is working as a spy for the demons, is called back to his home, his time of service done. He begs Alia to leave the elves and come with him to his home. He believed that the elves wouldn't accept him, but the Darklings would accept her. Unfortunately, she would not leave the elves and decided to break off her relationship with Karis, believing the shock of it would convince him to stay with her. They share a final night together. While she slept, Karis stole 4 of the 5 sets of Elfstones from their hiding place and left a note for Alia telling her to take the blue Elfstones, the Seeking Stones, and come find him to retrieve the other 4. He claimed to have stolen them only as a way to convince her to leave her people and be with him, and not to use them as a weapon against her people, but those were only words. Panicked that she had just doomed her people to defeat in the war with the demons, she set out with the blue Elfstones to find Karis. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she tried, he could not be found. After weeks of searching, she returned to Arbelon and confesses everything to her parents. She is given a chance at redemption, which was to be the first host of the Ellcrys. Since that time, only women from her bloodline are able to be hosts for the Ellcrys. We find out millennia later, during a time when an Omsford invaded the Forbidding, the truth of Karas's words. Redding Omsford found the resting place of the 4 sets of Elfstones, and along with them a note from Karas. His people had turned on him when he returned with the Elfstones and refused to give them over. He was imprisoned and hidden with powerful magic so that Aaliyah couldn't find him. Karas was heartsick to think that the woman he loved lived her life thinking he had used her. Even though he knew he would never see her again, he left the note in case one day another elf would happen upon the stones and convey his last message to the family of the only woman he had ever loved. So yeah, that is the story of the Ellcrys. Terry never mentions the actual magic that is used, who came up with it, how it's done, etc., which is standard Brooks. It is one of the sadder stories in the Shannara mythos. It's very Romeo and Juliet. You know, if Juliet became a magic tree and locked everyone who liked Romeo, and Romeo himself, in an extra-dimensional prison. So yeah, that's it. I am working next on a story about the history of the Druids, as much as I can, since a lot of you haven't read the books, and so filling in some of the gaps on the first, second, and third Council of the Druids and all of that stuff would seems like fun, so I'm working on that now, and that'll be the next thing you see. I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing from here forward, since by the time you have seen this video, Season 2 of the Shannara Chronicles has ended, and there's a very good chance that it will not be renewed. So if you have any ideas on what you would like me to do, at least, hoping for the best during the interim between the 2 seasons, because I obviously want to keep providing content for you, just drop anything you have in this video's comments, and we'll talk about it and see what I can do next. I have some cool announcements coming up, I hope. Pretty exciting for new series of videos that I'm doing for this channel that don't necessarily match what you're watching now, but fit nicely into the theme of my channel. So look for that information soon, and I will see you again.